How's it going? Kevin Cleary here with The View from the Pew. This is the second video today, and I want to talk about another subject that can be maybe a little bit controversial at times, and that is environmentalism. We are constantly hearing about environmentalism. If you're a person who has a Facebook page or a Twitter account or a TV in your home, you hear about environmentalism pretty regularly. You hear about concerns and complaints and issues and debates that go on pertaining to human impact on the planet that God has given us. And so I wanted to weigh in on this in a way that I think balances things out a little bit and hopefully can give some perspective. First, we need to understand that God created this world and everything in it. It's His creation. He created it, yes, and gave it to humanity to use and enjoy and to benefit from. And no one, I don't think, would argue that we do. Anyone who's had a peach or an apple pie would go, wow, God gave us a wonderful creation. If you've seen a sunset, you understand the beauty and perfection of God's creation. However, with that understanding that God created this world and that we are now using it and benefiting from it, comes a responsibility. Just like if you went and borrowed your neighbor's truck to move a couch or a piano or something, you would go, man, this truck is not mine, so I've got to be really, really careful. I don't want to smash it into anything. I don't want to, cause any damage because I'm responsible for what happens to this truck while it's in my care. And so understanding that God created the world and that we're using it ought to help to give us some perspective in terms of environmentalism. On the other hand, we need to be careful that we don't commit the sin of idolatry, which God describes in Romans chapter 1, when people begin to worship the creation rather than the Creator. And so in our understanding that we have responsibility and we have stewardship to think about in terms of how we treat the world that we are enjoying, we need to keep in mind that we worship God and God only. Nothing is more important than that. Everything else that we do flows out of our worship for, our love for, and our devotion to God. Now, I want to say one more thing, which is we need to be aware that as humans, when we have resources, especially limited resources, we have to be careful. Now, whether we could debate a lot how limited or unlimited the resources are that the world provides for us. Doesn't matter, because let's move this over to a bank account analogy. If you have a huge bank account with millions and millions of dollars, does God still expect you to be responsible and a good steward of those millions of dollars? Yep. If you have a very small bank account with only a couple $100, does God expect you to be a good steward of those couple $100? Does He expect you to be responsible and reliable and uphold His principles in the use of that couple $100? Yeah. So the debate about whether or not we have unlimited resources or very limited resources doesn't matter, because just knowing that God has given us resources means we have to be responsible. And knowing who we are as humans means that's going to be a bit of a challenge. Whether it be, the subprime mortgage fiasco south of the border, whether it be credit card debt in Canada where I'm from. I've heard maybe we're a little better off financially than our neighbors to the south, but nonetheless, every year, banks talk about, man, credit card debt is too high, we need to cut it back. So when you know that about a society, that should be a warning. Whoa, people, human beings, when they've got resources, they tend to blow those resources. They tend to not use them very well. They get in trouble financially. They get in trouble when it comes to, you've got X, Y, Z amount, and now you've got to be aware of how you use it. So knowing that we're not that great all the time at managing resources, and knowing that the creation is a resource, that ought to cause a little bit of concern, a little bit of care. So I would say this. As a Christian, you need to first and foremost worship the Creator. Be careful that you don't start to put the creation above the Creator. That you don't start to put the creation above humanity, which is the purpose of creation. We've been given the creation to enjoy and to use. But there's one more: be careful. That is, be careful how you use the resources that God has blessed us with. Just like every other resource that God blesses you with, time and energy, family, knowledge, all the good things that God gives us, we have to be very careful with how we use them. We have a responsibility to use them to his honor and to his glory. And the same is true of this world that he's given us to enjoy. And that's the view from the pew.